Okay, we are live over channel 18.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Marine and Freshwater Quality Committee meeting. It is November 16th, 2020. I'd like to officially call the meeting to order. And because we do have participants out there in Zoom land, I think it'd be helpful if we just identify ourselves individually so that they know. There are people that actually don't know everyone here. So I'm Judy Scanlon, and next would be
Carol Etzold.
Judith Bruce.
Ed Hafner.
Rich Levy.
Betsy Fertney.
and Ed Hafner, who you both spoke at the same time. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Right now, I'd like to move right on to approving the minutes for October 19th, 2020. Does anyone have any comments, corrections? And I want to thank Ed for putting those together. Thank you, Ed.
I move we approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? We
Aye.
have to do it by
Aye.
name. I,
Yeah.
Judy Scanlon.
Judith
Aye,
Bruce
Carol
abstained.
Etzold.
So we either have to do it alphabetically or you need to call names, Judy.
You
Yeah,
just need to
because
call
here,
each name,
okay.
Judy.
Sorry about that.
Everyone has a different
Everybody's
list
screen.
on their screens.
Carol,
Carol Etzold, aye.
Betsy,
Betsy Fertney, aye.
Rich,
Rich Levy, aye.
Judith,
Abstain, Judith.
Ed.
Aye, Ed.
Okay. Thank you very much. Minutes are approved with one abstention.
Who seconded the motion?
I
Believe
didn't
Carol.
get that.
Ed.
It
Carol.
was Carol, I believe.
Okay.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is Uncle Harvey's Pond Management Plan, and I said this was just a brief update, as some of,
Judy,
yes?
I will be recusing myself.
oh, that's right, sorry, Beth.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So make a note that Betsy Fertney has recused herself for this part of the discussion. Originally, the select board were going to take up their conditional approval of the notice of intent for Uncle Harvey's Pond. They had some questions that needed to be answered before they would entertain a final approval or not. That was postponed and it is now scheduled for this Wednesday. Their select board meeting this Wednesday on the 18th. So that's one update. And I believe that the status now is that we will be applying for a portion of the pond, to treat a portion of the pond, and not the abutters that did not sign the affidavit at the time that went around to the abutters. And that was really the only update I had. I think there are some calculations being made to determine with not including those parcels, what the application will be, and issues about whether the target level can still be maintained. I think they're cross-checking all that right now, but that's the only update I have right now at this time. I don't know if anyone has any comments or questions.
I just have a question. Are all of the abutters, have they now all weighed in? At the last up, I think we were missing 3 or 4. Has everybody now weighed in with a yay or a nay?
I believe the nay would be ones that didn't, if people didn't submit the affidavit, then it was assumed that there was a nay. We've heard only, I believe publicly, only one abutter has ever spoken out publicly. I'm not going to mention names, but the other two they did not submit the affidavit.
Okay,
I-
so there are 3 presumed negatives, but we
Correct.
only know confirmed 1.
Right now, publicly, only one has spoken out.
Thank you. I'm sorry, but it just crossed my head moves slow these days. Through COVID mush, we'll call it. Of the 3 that have not, did they abut each other? In other words, if we're going for a partial, are we going to checkerboard this pond or is this one?
Well, two of them, my understanding is two of them are side-by-side parcels and one is not.
Okay, thank you. I promise that's it.
Okay, no, it's fine. Is there anyone else? I cannot see if anyone else has a comment for public comments out there. Okay, hearing none, and Sarah's not.
Wait, Matthew has his hand raised.
Matthew Crichton. He's one of our consultants.
Yep, he's able to
Matt-
speak now.
Okay, thank you.
Hey guys, yeah, I just wanted to jump in on Judy. Yeah, so we've got two parcels that are together, and then I think there's three parcels that had signed on, and then a parcel that has not. So essentially, if we look at the pond, you know, we've got, it's a little checkerboard on one side, if you will, but two of the three parcels that hadn't signed on are together. And I know Scott's on, but I'll say it for him. I know he's like Judy had mentioned, he's rerunning those calcs to see if we treat, you know, the percentage of the pond that's open, you know, where we land with that. So.
Right, and I believe there's 12 abutters that have signed on, signed their, app, and 3 have not. I believe that's the way it was.
Yeah, we have 3 that have not. Yep.
Correct, okay. Thank you for the additional clarification, Matthew. Any other public comments out there? Barring none, that's all the update I have. Again, it's going to come before the select board this Wednesday. I believe it's like halfway through their agenda. And so they'll make a decision on their conditional approval that they issued before. And if they do approve it, it will move on through the regulatory process to the CONSCOM. All right, thank you very much. And thank you again, Matthew, for commenting. So I wanted to dedicate the bulk of this meeting to the review and discussion of the Crystal Lake Management Plan that was completed by SMAS. This is the draft final report. Everybody received electronic copies, and then some of you picked up actual hard copies that that George Meservy's office made, and I thank George Meservy's office for doing that. So I will be happy to start with whoever has some initial comments on the draft final report. Certainly it was clear in reading it for me that indeed each pond is unique and management strategies are different, are going to be different from pond to pond.
So I would like to jump in if that's okay, Judy.
Absolutely.
So just first of all, to thank you very much for making hard copies, because I guess I'm a dinosaur, but while I know it wastes paper, I still really prefer to do a hard copy review of things instead of on the screen. So this was very helpful. And thanks to Ed for a very complete and well-read and interesting report. Just a couple little minor things. This report indicates that we have 3 great ponds. I believe we have 4. Baker's, Crystal, Cedar, and Pilgrim. And I thought our largest pond was Baker's and not Pilgrim, but I defer to those who know better.
Right, and I also picked up on that when I was reviewing it. Cedar Pond is also what is considered a great pond, but I think that it was probably left off due to its present salinity status. Because it, you know, it's a brackish pond now, the salinity had gone up. But that is a comment that I have made a note myself that, you know, I'm hoping that we can compile after our initial discussion today, that we can compile questions and comments that we can provide Ed Eichner and Brian House maybe by the end of the month, so that they have a chance to review our questions and comments and incorporate them in a presentation that I'm going to be asking them to do next month if dates and everything work. This is normal for when they do these reports. The presentation is usually included. They did it for Pilgrim Lake. They've done it for Cedar Pond. And it's part of the scope of work for the Crystal Lake project. So
So
maybe,
well, I know that there is a desire by some to have Cedar Pond become a freshwater, but it has always
brackish.
it has always been classified as freshwater. It has never been classified as a marine pond. And in fact, that was sort of rejected by SMAST and DEP back when we had asked for a TMDL for Cedar as part of the MEP study. So I think at this time, it really, while I may or may not want to see it be fresh, I think it really needs to be considered fresh and a great pond of Orleans, and spoken of that way.
Yeah,
I know you won't believe I'm pitching that, but
no, the goal is for a brackish system of 1 to 4 parts per thousand, I believe. But again, I did also see that. It has always been considered a great pond, and that is a question that I definitely want us to ask Ed, why they decided to not mention that. So
thank you.
duly noted. Did you have other comments while you have the floor, Judith?
No, I mean, I'm sure that we will get to there, but I absolutely, again, this is, I think, similar to Pilgrim, in that the greater contribution at this point is septic system input rather than sediment regeneration.
Right.
And I think, again, I would just argue and say that that pipe going from the Meeting House pond soaring system to the town's wastewater treatment plant can very readily be redirected to a different route that would enable the town to pick up the upgradient properties to Pilgrim and Crystal. And while I appreciate that the consultants are saying that perhaps, 13 out of 18 properties would need to be sewered, I would further urge, knowing that that phosphorus will only travel over time, it would be short-sighted to go with 13. I would reroute that pipe and pick up all of the upgradient properties to those 2 freshwater lakes to provide for maximum protection, so that if we have to take a little longer to get Mass DOT to address the stormwater, because we know that's not easy. It took Conscom 10 years to get them to address it for Cedar Pond, that we could ultimately pick up some additional time for the water quality on that.
So I certainly hope that you incorporate that into your questions and comments that you provide.
Okay.
Yeah, I do believe, as part of this process, eventually we will be our committee will be submitting its recommendations to the select board. So we are aware of where those houses are in relation to phase 2. One property on Crystal Lake is actually part of phase 2 design for the sewering. It does seem logical to me to continue on and pick up the others. They're right there.
Right.
But this, of course, it needs to go to other, yeah,
I got
baby steps. We'll Carol.
I have a
Technical
question.
point.
sorry.
Betsy's been locked out.
Oh,
She can't
Oh.
read. She hasn't been able
yes,
to rejoin.
Betsy.
So she wonders if Sarah can get her
Yes,
back
Sarah,
in.
please bring Betsy back in.
Should be able to join.
Well, I think she can hear you, so maybe you can walk.
Yeah,
her.
she was on the attendee side, so
Yeah,
she'll be back. There she is.
Here she comes. Okay, Betsy, but you have to unmute yourself now.
except she's still just not
Yeah.
on video.
You're just a little icon now. You're not you.
She's still.
But she's
still on-
unmuted.
There you
Sorry,
are.
There she is.
I tried to rejoin 3 times. It just wouldn't let me in.
So I want to make sure, Betsy, because we couldn't hear you or see you, did you have any public comments to make on the Uncle Harvey's Pond?
I think the last thing I heard was the question about who the abutters are who have not signed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, we were
there-
referring to
there-
them by name, but we said there were.
well,
three.
there are 2 adjacent, but the one who is quote unquote checkerboard did sign our original petition 2 years ago and has stated that she would sign. So I think follow up on the part of George Meserve would be appropriate, but I think that's appropriate after the town has signed their affidavit.
Right, and I believe also that any abutter can decide later if to sign on if they wish to. All right, I wanted to make sure you weren't,
Thank you. I was cut out. Thank you.
okay, thanks.
I
Okay,
have a
and,
question.
okay, Rich.
So when you look at the map of Crystal Lake
Mhm.
that's in the report, and you were talking about, again, it's my newness to this, phase 1 and phase 2, I assume, of the sewer collection. Is that on the map? They have this like hashed pink area
Yeah.
What page are you on, Rich?
on page 61.
Which one?
61,
61.
figure
61, okay, I just
4
want,
22, which
I
is
have
what you're
Oh,
hard
on the
copy.
paper copy, it's 51.
Oh, I'm looking at
51.
a PDF, so I don't know.
Yes, Rich,
That's
you didn't pick up your paper copy, Rich.
So anyway, figure 4-22 Crystal Lake watershed. And when you look at that, there's a sort of a reddish pink hashed area. Is that
I'm
phase
just showing
1?
it so that if there's
There it
people out,
goes. Yes, that's the
Yeah.
one.
I just want to make sure that people in the audience see it too.
So if you
Alright.
look at the top, up at the north, I guess that is, the pink area is the area that's going to be served by the sewer system, the first phase. Is there a
Yes.
second phase? You talked about a second phase. I don't know what that is, so.
There's a
Meeting
phase,
House- Meeting House Pond is the second phase of the
Yeah.
sewer system. The first
Okay.
phase of the sewer system is the downtown area. The second
Right.
phase is Meeting House Pond.
So the area that's in that report that's hashed that way, that's it. There wouldn't be any other, in this phase 2, there wouldn't be any others picked up or not from this
Not as it
area.
stands now. Not as it
Right.
currently stands.
Okay,
Rich, it could be exactly like what happened at Uncle Harvey's Pond. For Meeting House Pond, Uncle Harvey's Pond was excluded. When they
Mhm.
saw the results of the management report, the
Mhm.
Water and Sewer Board proposed that the upgrading houses should be added, and a proposal has gone forward to add. So I'm assuming we would be recommending to the
Right.
select board as a part of this analysis to add additional homes to that Meeting House Pond, since they're already that close to the pond.
great. Okay, so now I understand. That means that would be one of ours, because it seemed like when I read this, that there was, you could only do mitigation on a smaller number of the septic systems, because there's only a certain number available of those new the phosphorus removal systems in
yeah,
statewide.
they're still experimental, I believe.
Mhm.
And I guess what makes me a little nervous about that is phosphorus remediation in septics is a lot more complex and difficult than nitrogen. Nitrogen has been incredibly closely studied and fabulously well studied by George Heufelder at the county level for at least 20 years.
Mhm.
Judy might correct me, but I've been aware of it and visited their facility well over 15 years ago.
Right.
They haven't yet come up with the perfect septic system remediation for nitrogen. So the idea that there might be a phosphorus reducing
Mhm.
technology out there that actually works is probably small and nil. And to ask homeowners to invest a really good sized chunk of money in a technology which may or may not be effective,
Right.
I think is a big ask. And it's a
Mhm.
lot more costly than the nitrogen reducing septics.
And the way I understand it, it would be less likely for either the town or the homeowners to get grants for part of that cost because it's experimental.
Right.
And
And
Rich,
normally, when people get hooked up to the sewers here, do they remove the septic system?
Yes.
So there's
Well,
going to be a cost involved in that.
Or they pump, dry and fill,
Right.
one or the other. I
Probably
mean,
more likely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's less expensive. Okay.
So Rich,
Thank
just
you.
to backtrack a little bit for you, when we talked about the Pilgrim Lake report and we talked about these alternatives, we emphasized the fact that because they're a pilot, you have to put in 2 full systems.
Oh, right.
A traditional system and the pilot. So number one, that's a huge hurdle. But number
Right.
2, you have to look at the nature of these properties. They're already built, they have landscaping in, they're well developed.
Right.
It's extremely difficult to require those folks to put in an alternative system when it requires ripping a great part of their landscaping apart.
Right. Okay,
But
thank
when
you.
you, but
That's
when you
helpful.
look at this particular map, I mean, right now, the reason that those properties that are hatched with red lines, the reason that they are picked up is really no other reason than a route going from the Meeting House Pond area to the wastewater treatment plant. That's Pond Road.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
the reason they're picked up is the pipe goes by because you got to get the stuff from Meeting House to downtown. And if it's going to go by the property, it doesn't make sense
Mhm.
not to store them. But
Right.
when you look at this, to make a little hitch down 28 and across,
Mm.
what is that, Old Timers Lane? I
Yes.
believe. To pick it up on Monument, you know, you've really collected a lot because you can also very easily then meet at Monument for the properties you're going to pick up on Pilgrim Lake Terrace for Pilgrim Lake.
Mhm. I
The
see.
the juncture of those 2 points, I think, is, from an engineering standpoint, is
And
Very
the committee may decide to make such a recommendation when we get to that point.
Mhm.
Certainly want to hear the presentation from SMAST. There are certainly financial implications to changing or expanding, and that's beyond us. We can only recommend. And but I did think it was really important to note that in the draft report, it did state that if those upgradient homes were picked up, added to the sewer system in the future, that additional remediation may not be necessary. It might actually be enough to reduce phosphorus loads to the target level, which I thought was really interesting.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
similar
And-
for
and
Pilgrim.
for sure, while it's not as big a contribution to the estuaries, because once the groundwater flows through the lake, there is some natural attenuation by the lake. So picking up
Mhm.
properties, upgrading it to a lake to protect estuaries is less compelling. There is still a contribution coming from those houses of nitrogen going to Lonnie,
Right.
going to
Yeah.
the river.
Mhm.
So you do get a double whammy because at the same time, you're helping to protect Lonnie's Pond and some of the Pleasant Bay system by picking up those.
Right, and that was
Right.
also mentioned in the report, the importance.
I missed that one.
Yep, it was in there.
And so so now if you look at that same map, the areas that were unshaded, which are presumably upstream, I guess.
Downgrade.
Even though it seems
I'm sorry,
inscrutable.
downstream,
They're up-
downstream.
And
That would
gradient.
include the house with the bog on it and all of that. So those are they're not proposed to be tied into any system at this point.
They're not contributing to the load. They're,
No, I know that. I was just asking whether they were on the,
So,
because
So
you
they-
got the pink area, but
They
This
would
is-
be contributing to Lonnie's Pond in a more significant way because they are not
Correct.
naturally attenuating through Crystal Lake, but they
Correct.
are not contributing to Crystal Lake.
right. And are they, my question was, are they on the plan for the receiving sewers? It doesn't look like it based on that map, right? So they just stopped at whatever point that is because it was adjacent to something else up above one of the streets there, I guess. That's it. So okay, I think I
Well,
read it right. So,
Judith can correct me if I'm wrong, but in some of the initial phases, Rich, I believe these areas were covered. And then they
Mhm.
were trimmed back based on the cost of the total
Okay.
sewering program.
So yes, Betsy, the original sewering plan for the town, the 53% of all properties in town,
Mhm.
we automatically, if you will, included all properties up gradient to freshwater ponds. Because while again, this was a project being done for estuaries and you don't get the same bang for your buck, it did provide protection to freshwater ponds. So it just seemed silly when the pipe was going by that we not sewer up gradient freshwater pond properties. Again, not to do a separate tie-in, but if the pipe was going by to do it.
Okay, and so the properties that were in the green, yellow, and pink or purple, they were at one point on the plan and then that was removed for
That's
cost
correct.
reasons?
That's correct.
Okay. So we know what the cost would be already for that to be
Cost would have to be recalculated, but I
plus
think
recalculated, right?
it's a pretty small task for our consultants, our engineering firm, AECom, to calculate the cost of that.
And remember, Rich, one thing that was drilled into us for many years through this process is that our wastewater management plan is an adaptive plan. So
Right.
there are definitely changes that are made and can be made along the way as more information or new information is made available. So,
Good.
yes, and I thank
Yeah,
you
that
for
was
your
helpful.
question. Thank you very much for your question. Betsy?
I feel the same way about this report as I did about Pilgrim Lake, which is if the conclusion is that the most appropriate course of action is to recommend inclusion in the sewering process, then I still believe, because of the timelines, that we should be looking at interim activities. And as Judith pointed out, we know it's going to take the state forever to fix Route 28 stormwater, so we should definitely get that in the queue. But also the question of whether there should be aeration or alum or dredging or some other option that's done on an interim basis. So I really see this as two-phased. We could recommend inclusion on the sewer, but I still think we may want to take some actions now in both Pilgrim and Crystal for a more, for an ongoing stopgap measure.
Yeah.
And I'm not there yet. I mean, sewering is very costly, and for sure there can be betterments built in and other things that take some of it off the tax rolls. But if we have a clear plan forward that can avoid having to address sediments in any of these, I think we need to push forward on the sewering and not ask for the double hit to the town. I think that's
Right.
that's a fence. That's a bar that we're not going to be able to high hurdle.
But I
It may
think
not be necessary.
from reading all of the options and looking at the results, I saw the options as being in two categories. Ones that remediate the symptoms and ones that remediate the problem of phosphorus itself.
Yep.
And certainly the sewering is the best bang for the buck in terms of getting rid of the problem, which humans by our development have created. And that's the best thing. On the other hand, if it's going to take 5 to 8 more years to get the problem remediated, would it be prudent for the health of the water for these 5 to 8 more years and the pressure of recreation on ponds like Pilgrim and Crystal especially, to look at one of the relatively lower cost symptom remediations as that stopgap for a little while? Can we afford not to do that because of, frankly, the economics of having people swim in our pond? We want to encourage people that our waters are healthy and that there may be sharks in the some of the salt water, but there aren't any in the fresh water, and it's clean and delightful to swim in.
Well,
So I kind of think that we should look at some of those intermediate steps as well as the sewering.
so I guess I would agree with that, particularly if there were a case where we needed to do both. So I look at Uncle Harvey's, for instance, and we know we can't get there doing one or the other. We need to do both. We need the long term, we need the short term. Unless I've completely misunderstood the report for this in Pilgrim, what I've heard is that through Soaring, we can fix these ponds. It's not like a sediment remediation is going to happen in 60 days time.
True.
Again, let's look at Uncle Harvey's and look at how long it takes.
There is that.
I'm not trying to, but this is a reality. This is the politics of this world today. And this is the reality of how fast things happen. And what it takes from a public financing standpoint to get these things to go through. So I think there's no reason why Soaring, and especially if there is pressure brought to bear, there's no reason to look at a 5 to 8 year timeline. That should be able to be considerably shorter. I think it is easier to get the public to buy it and to go along with it if in fact it's one shot, if you're not going back to the well over and over again to say we do need to do more. I'm not saying there isn't an urgency. I'm feeling a tremendous
Yeah, I get it.
On the other hand, I've also monitored most of these ponds for 20 years. And there is not the kind, I have not seen the kind of urgency that says, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. If we don't do something tomorrow, we are not going to be able to swim in this pond next week.
True.
So from all of those standpoints, I'd rather put the effort into getting what I feel like is really the big fix here. And moving on that, and to not look at the others unless it looks like the Soaring is going to be completely useless. I will also say that what other towns have seen is once they've done some kind of a in-pond remediation and the pond starts looking lovely, you completely lose your political will to get anything else done because it's fixed. And wash your hands, walk away, don't look back. So, and please don't think I'm recommending that we allow our ponds to tank in order to fix them. That's not my intention.
And I know I see some hands up here. Before you comment, Ed, I just want to comment, Judith. Of course, this was based on conditions as we know it now. Things can change. Suddenly Crystal Lake could start developing algal blooms, and then that would change everything probably. But right now, it's the way it is. Ed, you had your hand up.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree with the general consensus here that a conservative approach seems to be, we're optimistic that a conservative approach will be enough for Crystal Lake. But I would like to wait for the presentation by Ed and Brian, and then we can ask these questions to our experts and get expert opinion, which I think is what we want to base our recommendation to the select board on.
Right.
So before I comment or make any further comments on the report, which I thought was exhaustive, it took a lot of time to go through that.
Very complete.
There are, he does have very nice bullet points of recommendations. And, I was pleased that something like aeration of the hypolimnion was in there as opposed to more.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Drastic treatments. So there's a lot of good things in the report, and I think we're all optimistic about how it's looking. But I would wait for Brian and Ed.
Well, and I encourage you to send me comments, any comments you have or questions you have, all of you, please send them by the end of the month so that we can get them out to Brian and Ed, so that when they come and do the presentation, they can address some of these questions that we have. Betsy?
I thought we had agreed when we set the Pilgrim Lake aside that when we next approach the select board, that we would be approaching them with a combined recommendation for both Pilgrim Lake and Crystal Lake. So that's number one. I want to be sure that's still true.
That was
Number
my recollection too, Betsy.
Okay,
Mhm, yeah.
and number two is, we're really talking about two time lags here. We're talking about the time lag for the sewering to be installed, plus another 5 to 6 year time lag for the phosphorus that's currently entering the system to be stopped, plus additional homes that are now coming online. So I think it's a bit short-sighted to look at a 15-year horizon and say, oh, we're just going to let everything ride until, because it's okay. And do recall that in Pilgrim Lake, the clarity is so bad. We had a lifeguard drown in there and they couldn't find him for a very long time. So I think Pilgrim Lake in particular, with its swimming and with its recreational use, may well benefit from some, whether it's aeration or however you want to tackle it, having that set up temporarily to improve the clarity, I think would be a plus.
And this will all be discussed also, when we have when the presentation happens and everything, but please put your comments to me, so I can get them
Okay.
to them. And yes, I do plan on also, because I know Laura had questions about Pilgrim. I do plan on also working Pilgrim into that, for discussion during that same presentation.
Excellent.
Judith.
Yeah, I was just going to say to Betsy, I agree with you on all of those, Betsy, except for the new homes just now being developed. All septic systems are going at least 100 feet back from a resource area now. So we're really looking at a minimum of 30 years transport for phosphorus. So
These are
new
existing
development,
homes.
If we're looking at a timeline that even goes to 10 or 15 years, we don't really need to be terribly concerned about phosphorus intrusion.
These are the yellow boxes on this map that are currently
Mhm.
existing that will be adding within a reasonable period of time. So I'm not talking about new construction. I'm talking about existing homes beyond the 18 in the yellow boxes that will also now be adding. So
Yeah, we need to ask Ed what the date of those was. I don't know how recent those are.
Okay, we'll put that in your question too.
That's questions for Ed.
Yep, please do that.
I'm sure he's looked at that. Yeah.
Anyone else have comments initially today? It's a big report, Betsy.
historical question. Does anyone know, we all know about the active cranberry bog that takes water in, but then sends it out through Lonnie's. But what's the history of that old bog that's at the other end of the lake?
It's huge. It's a freshwater wetland, right, Judy?
Yes, it is. And it's quite large. It's all overgrown now, but it's still, there's a actual stream that comes out of there and discharges to Crystal Lake on the pond roadside. When I was a kid, I used to go fishing for brook trout right where that stream empties into Crystal Lake because the brookies were always right there. It is very large. I know Ed looked into some of the history. I'm not sure how far back he went, but it goes way back to when the Lake Farm Camp, I know we used to walk past that and I was just a kid. So
Yeah.
it was swamp back then too. It wasn't active, but so it has to go way, way back. And I'm sure that information can be obtained if Ed didn't already uncover it.
I'm trying to remember, did Ed comment? I mean, he measured the stream flow coming out of that old cranberry bog. Did he measure the quality of that water? Is it clean water coming in?
I'm not sure if they did water quality samples of that discharge. I suspect they did because they have to, determine sorts of surface loads that are coming into the pond.
Yeah, okay.
So again, a question for Ed to submit to Ed and Brian. I'm pretty sure they did. It's probably in that report.
I know, it's not coming to the top of my head.
Everything.
Judy, approximately where on, say, the site map that we've been looking at today, where would the stream be coming in? On that blank piece, on the
You'll
unbuilt?
hold it up.
Yeah, it's hard, being mildly dyslexic, it's really hard for me to do this.
Oh, yeah.
The stream is up in here somewhere, comes in right up in here, I believe.
Near Pond Road.
Yeah, well, it's
Up
Right.
there. Oh.
Oh,
Okay.
I thought it was over in the Whitish area
Yeah, me too.
off Lake Farm Road. Not off Pond.
Well, yes, it goes by
Wait.
the
Oh, okay.
the Lake Farm, B. Audie's house and Lake Farm Lane. If you, one time it used to all connect all the way up to my farm on Monument Road.
Oh,
So-
wow.
When you get up to my farm, though, the water flows a different direction. It flows towards the river.
You're the other direction.
Yeah.
Right. So when you get to some point, which I know Ed Eichner had to determine, at some point, things start flowing this direction. That big wetland is, up in there. We used to walk by it from the camp on our way to the beach that the camp had over in here for swimming, canoeing and all that.
Wow.
But there is a stream that comes in. I just can't, looking at it like I'm looking at it now, it's in
No.
this area. I could pinpoint it more exactly if I wasn't holding this the opposite
Mhm.
way. And then you have your
think it's-
discharge.
Oh,
I think it's
Judith is gonna try.
Judith's gonna try. It's not as easy as it looks, Judith.
over here.
She's saying it's from the white.
It's from the
yeah.
White here. 'Cause
barely from
Judy,
the
you're
White.
over here. This is Finley Road, this way. So the streams come, B. Audie's house is over near here. It's coming out of this area and Judy, you're over this way.
Right, I'm way out there,
This is
correct.
Route 28, this is Finley.
Yes, I
Pond.
know.
Yeah, that way. This way. So this little white road is Lake Farm. I know.
If you can find Biotti's house, that's where it is. I
Oh,
want to say,
I'm not
right-
that good.
I believe it's right where the white and I believe that her property is right where the white and the hatched.
And the
meet.
hat pink, yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's very close to
There's
that.
a little panhandle thing. I think that's the right of the way down to the,
Ah,
the
Oh,
access to the water from Lake Farm Lane.
Yep,
I will mention right now that when I looked a few minutes ago, I did see that there were some members of the Friends of Crystal Lake. I think I saw John Sargent and Mal Bornemeyer on the attendees list. So I certainly will make sure that there's opportunity for public comment when we're there. And they may actually have more details about that than I can provide. But I do welcome the fact that they are interested in participating and listening. Before I go too far and forget, I do want to talk about potential dates for the presentation next month. I've been told that we actually were scheduled for the 14th, Monday, the 14th, which is not our normal Monday. That was done, I think, months and months ago when Carolyn set up the schedule, probably to deal with the fact that it was close to Christmas and people might be traveling, which may not be the case now. So there's also the 21st, which is the third Monday of December. Does anyone on the committee have conflicts or prefer one date over another?
I already had it on my calendar for the 14th.
Okay,
As did I.
I
Me
could
too.
probably do the 21st. I mean,
a lot's going to
like
depend on,
most others, I have no life, so.
well, most of us don't have much of one now, but I need to find out also as far as availability. I need to make sure that it's okay with George. I think it's in their contract to do this, but I have a few administrative things to verify first. But I want to make sure that Brian and Ed are available on one of those dates too. So that's why it'd be great if I had 2 dates to offer, if that
Right.
worked for everybody.
yep.
So
Regrettably,
offer
I have
14th.
both.
Rich, you okay
Should
on
be
both?
fine.
Yeah,
think it-
either one.
Ed?
Yeah.
that-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Either
one.
offer them
Okay.
either one in hopes of maximizing.
And certainly we have to verify that with Sarah Eaton and make sure that she's available or that there aren't a whole bunch of conflicting meetings that date.
Yeah, you're
Uh,
good either day.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah. Okay, wonderful. I will do that. I'll find out and I will nail that date down. Does anyone else on the committee have any other comments or questions?
Good report.
I think for being an incredibly long report, I thought it was very
Hmm.
complete and well written.
Well, I know Crystal Lake was our very first. I remember helping the town write a grant proposal way back to the state Lake and Pond group to get some seed money to start monitoring on Crystal Lake. So it's been 20 years in the making to get to this point. It's really,
Mm.
things have happened since, and citizens were a big part of that, including Friends of Crystal Lake. So since I know they're out there in the audience, I will open this up to public comment at this time in case anybody has a question or comment.
I don't see any hands raised, but Walter North did put a comment into the chat box. So
Okay.
I can
There's
read
a
that for
hand
you.
up.
He
Great.
said, Judy, is someone crosswalking your timeline for making a recommendation and the design work timeline associated with phase 2 sewer process and possible cost implications if you add on a possible extension for current phase 2 footprints to include Crystal and Pilgrim? Oh,
Wow.
Walter has his hand up, so I'll,
I
he's
also
able to
get
talk
that?
now.
And I'd like to get that in writing, please, because I cannot write that fast.
It is in writing, and it's just that if they're, I'm assuming that the water and sewer people are aware of this possible recommendation coming forward and are incorporating it into their planning so that we don't have additive design costs that we could have avoided if we knew this earlier.
Yeah, and I'm really not sure what they're aware of because this is a draft final report and we're the first step in the process. And then we go to the presentation and then our committee provides recommendations to the select board. So I'm really not exactly sure how much the water and sewer board is aware. I really do not know that. Does that answer your question? We're just beginning the process now for,
It's just to try to avoid additive costs. and
Yes,
To make people
absolutely,
aware of the possibility.
right. I-
Is your select liaison on this call?
I believe Cecil is here. Is
Yep.
Cecil?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, he would be the vehicle, I suspect, for doing that.
Right, and Cecil is here, and if he wishes to address that or knows the answer, please speak. You're on mute, Cecil.
I
There
do
you-
not know the answer to that, but I can bring it up in front of the board and see if I can get an answer.
I think I would wait until the presentation is made and we don't, I don't want to put the cart before the horse,
I understand.
but you
But-
do what you need to do. I mean, whatever.
But I believe that this would go to the Water and Sewer Commission
Yeah.
first because they are now handling the wastewater implementation.
Correct.
That's not with the Board of Selectmen at this point.
I would guess that that would get out there, the early winter if we follow this process through. Betsy?
Let's not forget that we never made a presentation to the select board on Pilgrim Lake, so we're kind of
Right.
in arrears on this.
Well, I think they would go together.
But again, this needs to go to the Water and Sewer Commission, not the Select Board.
First,
Well, we usually submit our recommendations to the select board from our committee. That's the way it was done in the past.
Don't know, maybe I'm being somewhat rebellious. I don't know that as a committee, we need to get the Select Board's approval to submit recommendations to the Water and Sewer Commission for the wastewater plan.
I don't know. I just know that's in the past, that's the process we have folled. So I guess,
Because the
procedural-
Select Board- I think because the Select
Yeah,
Board is in charge of the wastewater plan. but
and I
there's
know
not
George,
more.
I know George Meservy couldn't be at this meeting today, but it's a procedural thing and I'm sure that we'll be guided appropriately on, who gets what and when from us. So. Thank you. Are there any other comments out there?
We have
A hand up.
Marilyn, so she's able to talk now.
Oh, great.
Good morning, Mel. You got to unmute yourself.
Hi, Steve Bornemeyer,
Oh, Steve,
or
okay.
with Mal's laptop. Just a personal observation about the inflow at the northeast end of Crystal Lake, I've tromped those old grounds many times like you have, Judy, and
Yeah.
tremendous inflow and very fresh water, and it is being monitored by the state. There are sensors at the little dike that controls the inflow. So that is an important feature you should consider in this report, and I'm sure Ed will have some input on it. And very important, the main inflow is quite strong, as you know, Judy.
Yeah, when there's a lot of rain and everything, it certainly is. It also can go down to a trickle. I've seen it both ways. When you say the state, I think you're talking about Mass.
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
But those sensors are still there today and they're monitored.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they had a stream gauge there, but I wasn't positive.
It's right behind Beatty's property, as you know.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you.
I thank you very much for tuning in today.
Signing off.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, I will propose those dates, talk with George.
I do see 2 more hands up.
Oh, I don't see the hands. I'm very frustrated.
But
It
maybe-
was Steve and Walter that had their hands up, so.
Okay, and okay. Got it.
And I captured Walter's comment too.
Hands.
Yeah. If someone can shoot me what Walter's comment was, I think he put it in writing originally. I'd like to include it, or, that Rich can include it in the minutes too. All right. I thank everybody for reading. That was a lot of material that I gave you. So do you feel that you'd like to move on to discussing Cedar Pond? Do you feel you have the energy?
Before dredge advisory report?
Oh, excuse me, dredge advisory. My eyes are getting bad here. I'm so proud. I don't want to do this, but I have to. Sorry. Yes, I apologize for that. We do have the dredge advisory update from Betsy.
Yep, and it'll be very brief for those of you who did not attend town meeting. All of the articles for dredging passed. So that's continuing on with the permitting for Nauset Estuary, continuing on in Pleasant Bay with identifying and engineering sites for disposal. And at the same time, we're also working closely with Tom Daly on Rock Harbor to try to determine if hydraulic dredging or mechanical dredging is preferred. So those all passed, and the freshwater pond one, which Judy spoke to, did not pass. But there is still talk on the dredge advisory committee of proceeding ahead with a dredge analysis for freshwater ponds. So that'll be a separate issue with Ed, hopefully, and Brian House participating. So that's the town meeting portion. We have a meeting on Monday, and basically what we're doing is we're taking the original model from the Woods Hole group, and they're just plugging in different scenarios. What if the dredging behind the barrier beach is done by the county, and then the town does the maintenance dredging? What if we can sell sand? What if we can contract out a dredge? So they're putting a lot of parameters into the model so that they can run it many ways and look at it however the cards may fall. So if Rock Harbor is out, we'll be able to exclude that volume from any analysis for the purchase of a dredge. That's basically where we are. We're refining the quantities of material and matching it against the equipment that has been proposed to determine if it's cost effective for the town to utilize the county dredge or to purchase their own dredge. Judith?
So, yes, so for those who are voting absentee, you may have already received your ballots, but now that it has passed town meeting, of course, it also has to pass at the ballot box. And that election is December 1st.
Oh, I totally forgot. December 1.
So it's not a given, and I think there's no reason to believe, especially now that town meeting is by quote secret ballot with the machines. You know, back in the good old days, people would vote in favor of something at town meeting because they were embarrassed to vote it down, and then they'd go to the polls and vote it down. So, that, that phenomenon should be behind us. But it's not a given that it passed until it passed, and that won't be known until December 1st.
Okay, so I stand corrected. Town meeting has passed it. The vote will come up December 1st. But
Yeah.
I'm with you, Judith. I don't have any reason to believe that they're
There's no
not going
reason
to
to believe
proceed
that.
with the permitting and the
Right.
other additional things. And that's pretty much it for DAC for this point in time.
Thank you. Carol, did I see your hand up?
No.
No.
I have a quick question. So I got the ballot. I don't remember. So on the ballot, I think they were just a certain number of articles on the override. Is the dredging and stuff in one of the overrides?
In a couple, yeah. I thought,
okay.
I recalled a couple, Rich. I may be wrong, but I recalled seeing
Okay,
a couple
so
of them.
that's where they are. Okay.
Yep, I just received mine the other day. So
Yeah,
they
the quote, so-called Proposition 2.5.
Yep.
It all comes down to money, guys.
Yep. At a very interesting time of our history.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, I thank you so much. And I didn't mean to skip over that. I just didn't. I got to wear the glasses more often. So would you like to move on to the Cedar Pond report?
Sure.
Okay. Not as large as the other report.
Thankfully.
Well, it's only an annual one also.
And I think that's misleading where they call it the final report. I think they mean that it's the final report for 2019.
Correct.
In fact, there is one more year of monitoring that's required by DEP.
Correct.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
annual report.
Yeah, so this is just the annual report. It's not the final report.
Correct, that is true. I was pleased when I read over it to see that there have been some improvements. I'll take any improvement for that particular pond. It's definitely encouraging, but it's always been a challenge because of the outlet and the requirement from the Division of Marine Fisheries for the anadromous fish run and changing the board heights and dealing with salinity. But I did read in the report that they did see some improvements between 2018 and 2019, which are all good. We'll see if it continues with this next year. But salinity was reduced at the surface. Dissolved oxygen was improved slightly at the surface at different times of the season. So all in all, encouraging, but we have a ways to go. That was really my.
So I guess what I was, I guess I did see some as a result of this. I did see some reduced salinity. 2019 was an incredibly wet year.
Mhm.
So it's not clear that some slight reductions in salinity were a result of any management efforts as opposed to simply a change in rainwater. I saw several comments that spoke to improvement in water quality. I will readily admit that I'm not the best at reading graphs, and especially when they are the very, very complex fuzzy graphs. Forgive me for calling them complex fuzzy graphs, but I do have some difficulty reading some of the graphs to show exactly what is being demonstrated. I saw comments speaking to improve water quality. I didn't really see that in the data that was reflected. And I also, while there was mention of it, I think would be hard pressed to draw any conclusions that if there are some reductions in nutrient levels, et cetera, that in fact has come from anything having to do with fresh versus salt and really would be a function of eliminated cormorants and improvements to stormwater treatment off Route 6. So from that standpoint too, I was a little disappointed because John Janelle and Mike Brink both worked extraordinarily hard to get rid of those birds. And it was the Conservation Commission initiating an enforcement order against Eversource that succeeded in getting those lines down. And
Mhm.
it's always, I think, helpful and wise and good when a town committee acknowledges and recognizes the efforts of another committee in taking care of things. And there is nowhere in this document that makes any reference to that. So I think that that's just something that was, I'm sure, an oversight and not intentional, but I think it really needs to be corrected and spoken to. So I will continue to feel strongly that that whole system needs another clean out, similar to what was done in 2007 by the Pond Coalition and the commercial hook fishermen. Again, the marine debris has built up significantly. There are pieces of dock sitting in Rock Harbor Creek. There was, it's now gone because Laura removed the tire, but there was a tire that completely blocked the way under Rock Harbor Road. That creek has just completely filled again with the kind of plastics, fishing gear, marine debris that washes in on the high tides. And just like we clean out the herring run to Pilgrim Creek Pilgrim Lake every year, these systems need to be maintained, and no one has been near this thing since 2007. So that really could benefit, I think, from some additional work going into it.
I know there are issues with the culvert under Rock Harbor Road.
Yes, I tried to convince the town way back when they were doing the work there, to please put in a box culvert and please get rid of that stupid 36-inch pipe, and they opted not to do that. And now they're doing road work again, and they're again not addressing it. And that's just a shame.
Well, this committee does meet, Carolyn and I used to give the top 10 list to Mark Budnick, and we've also met in later years with Tom Daly, but we can provide recommendations to them. And I think this is one that needs to get on the list.
It'll increase the salinity to Cedar, there's no question.
But it's causing all that erosion on the bank where it blasts through. It's tipped a certain way underneath. It's not sized properly, and it's blasting through when the head pressure builds up too much, and that's causing all that bank to erode on the other side. Really does need.
One of these days, Steve Ellis's parking area is going to end up sitting in the creek bed. The amount, for any of you interested, drive down Rock Harbor Road, and you'll see where Rock Harbor Creek goes under the road there. Just look towards Route 6, not towards the marsh, but look the other way over the edge. The bowl that has been eroded out along that side. Because what happens now is the water slams through that culvert. It tries to get into Cedar Pond, and it can't because we've got the boards in place to stop it. So it backs up with more water plowing through, and the whole thing turns into this cyclone of erosion that just keeps on churning until the tide starts to go out again, and then it all releases. And the amount of erosion along the bank is frightening. It's really horrible.
I'm not so sure the boards have anything to do with it, and I'd love to hear Ed Eichner answer that question.
Well, the boards are what's keeping that flow from going into the pond. If it's not anything,
that was happening way before the boards were done, though. It's been eroding like that for years and many years. So I think that's a good question we should ask Ed Eichner.
Much worse in the last 2 years.
Yeah. I would love to ask him about that, though. Did I see Carol?
Yeah. Is the buildup and the erosion in the creek part of our charge to deal with?
Well, it is if our management plan is helping to not cause it, but further it. I mean, that was one of the DEP findings, that they basically said that whether that remained in place or not would depend on whether there were any negative impacts to the resource area. Significant erosion along a creek bed is a significant negative impact.
Right, but I don't,
So
I'm
whether
not-
that's contributing or not, that's going to be for DEP to decide.
right, and I think again, we need to ask the scientists whether the boards are actually creating that. I don't, because that erosion was significant prior to the boards, I'm not convinced that it's having a major
No,
impact.
no, it was not causing it. It would be at most contributing to it.
Right, but I think we need to get a real scientific
No disagreement.
answer to that.
No disagreement.
Ed Hefner.
Thanks. This is probably going to be a bad suggestion, but.
Warn me before you
Sorry,
do it.
but-
No bad suggestions, Ed.
Lace up our life, Ed, go to it.
Well, some of us are not as familiar with the history and the sites that you're all describing. And we at one time, I think in the last year or two, pre-COVID, discussed going out on, site visits.
Mhm.
And I think that would help,
That's a great idea.
some of us see exactly what you're all talking about, especially with regard to.
I walked that entire creek bed from the Route 6 culvert all the way down to where the old dike used to be in Rock Harbor Creek.
Yeah, so you would be a great guide.
Here
You
with
would be a
Laura.
great-
And Laura would be great. Laura and I know I can volunteer her services. I'm sure that we could be distanced safely, outdoors, fresh air, all that good stuff. Happy to
So-
see you down there.
So,
We-
yeah, we should do it though. Judy should set it up as part of our committee official meeting.
A site visit, sure, because I think it would benefit our newer members. And I forget sometimes because I've been looking at Cedar Pond for 20 years that not
Yeah.
everybody has. And so I think that'd be great to do a site visit for all of us to walk it. I haven't walked it for a while, so I will try to set that up with all of you on a day that's nice and mild. We'll still have a few, I think.
I won't volunteer to take you down to the culvert under Route 6 to Cedar Pond. I do it myself, but that involves parking on Route 6 and or running across the highway. And
Yeah.
town fathers would take exception to my leading a group
I have
across Route 6 and
I have
scrambling
plenty of
down.
photographs. I have plenty of pictures I can show from that particular culvert. I see
Right.
Betsy.
Yeah, I've got two historical questions. Is it absolutely essential to maintain the fish run since there have been no fish for 3 years?
That's a,
That's a non-issue at this point.
that's a,
I'm
can of-
seeing if Judy,
Yeah.
since she with, what's his name? I can't remember his name.
I'm not sure who you're talking about, but,
The fish guy.
Brad Chase,
oh,
Brad.
Brad.
Yeah,
the different
DMF.
fish- Well, the management plan for Cedar Pond includes restoring the anadromous fish run. So it's part of the management plan.
it is, but if we're having this trouble with the salinity and lowering the salinity seems to help the water quality in the pond, is there a point at which we can actually say that perhaps is not a major objective?
Well, I disagree with you on having trouble lowering the salinity. Actually, there has been some success in lowering salinity so far for the certain surface regions of the pond, but even the deeper areas of the pond, salinity was lowered by, I think, 1 part per thousand between 2018 and 2019. And of course, going back to Judith's point about it being a wet year, we do need to see over time if that trend continues. But it was in there to restore the herring run. I feel strongly about restoring it. It was our only other historical run. Herring were spawning in there way back in the early 2000s when the salinity was still low. And then it got to a point where they couldn't spawn successfully. There's another species in there, the white perch. They are also spawned in there. They are still there, but I'm I suspect that they are struggling because the salinity got much higher, that they would also benefit. And we have American eel that I'm sure goes in there.
But my question is, the only way they've been able to maintain the salinity at the level they want is by having the boards quite high. And the only time they put the notch in the board is when they're trying to let the fish in. If we did a separate fish run, would we be able to keep the boards higher to keep more salinity out?
That's a question for Brad Chase, and a decision by the state to be made in the future on whether they want to actually put a controlled fishway in there. We're not anywhere near there at this point. So,
But my question is, if you did a controlled fish run, would that allow you to have the boards higher?
Again, that's a question for the people that do that type of engineering. I do not know the answer to
Okay,
that.
and then part
Yeah.
two of my question
Looking at
is,
a fish ladder probably, but I don't know.
okay, and
we're-
then part two of my question is, for every other pond, we're talking about the ecoregion targets. This pond is disgusting, and we never even talk about the standard ecoregion targets. Is it not our intent to measure those? Are we, I guess I'm just confused why the standards for this pond are so much different than what we do for all the other ponds.
That's a better question for Ed Eichner when he's there, but originally that was considered a freshwater pond and then a brackish system, and then it became a marine system, and now we're trying to return it to a brackish system. It kind of falls in, there are many different standards that may or may not apply, but it also is exporting nutrients to the Rock Harbor Creek system. So
Right.
that's and nitrogen. It used to attenuate much more nitrogen when it was a lower salinity system. And as salinity increased, it exported more. So these are all things that have to be looked at moving forward. And, hopefully salinity is reduced, and hopefully at some point it can be maintained. But again, this monitoring continues. So we'll see whether the trend continues.
So do you want separate comments for Ed for this report as well?
Sure.
Is he going
Yeah,
to speak
this
about
is
this
not-
report?
Not a draft, but I'm sure that we could ask them to spend, a little time at the end of their presentation, maybe to just answer some of these questions.
I'd love to go on site and then meet with Ed.
Yes,
I think it would
absolutely.
make it more comprehensive.
I will try to set up a site visit for a pleasant day before the presentation in
Okay,
December.
good.
I know,
Thank you.
Carol. Thank you, Betsy. Carol, you had a question?
Yeah, partly, and to piggyback on Betsy's question about fish runs, if that's part of can that be part of the management plan if we're hoping to manage the perch and the herring? But along with that, there seems to be, as we know, no apparent fish, or at least herring, that have ever been observed. And nobody's going to stand out. Well, during our management
Right.
observation years. And nobody's going to stand out there during every sunlit hour to look for fish.
No, but observations have been made by the harbor master and his crew, as well as S-Mast. Yeah.
True, but wouldn't the whole question be answered in one season if we got a fish counter?
Fish counter?
You
Yeah.
mean a volunteer or an electronic fish counter? That,
Like what we've got, we put in at
yeah, that,
Eldon.
Carol, that won't tell you what the species are.
right.
So
Well,
one of the best ways that we know that we had herring there was the fish kill in 2001 or 2, the fish kill in 2008. Significant numbers of herring. Along
No,
with
I'm not talking about what we had. I'm
Right.
talking about right now, if
I'm-
we're wondering if
I'm
they're
getting
in.
to that. I'm getting to that.
Oh, okay.
Then we had a fish kill in 2018 after the boards went in. And that was the only fish species that was determined then was white perch.
Okay,
Guessing that one of the reasons that a lot of white perch died was because when the level of oxygen tanked, they no longer had the ability to run down Rock Harbor Creek because they were trapped. There were boards in place. They could not get out. So our 3 fish kills have been at times when we have had lower salinity rather than high levels of salinity. I don't believe it has anything to do with the level of salinity. I have the feeling that it just has to do with the ability of these critters to migrate back and forth to be able to find ponds that have more oxygen. They're pretty good at it. I live on a freshwater pond that's connected to another. My pond goes to very low oxygen. It would never support fish in the summer. The fish feed over to the other pond that has better oxygen. And then come the fall. How do I know that? From the fishermen that are out there catching the fish. Okay. But
Okay.
to hire somebody to go out and say, I am finding, these fish, particularly in this, I think Judy would agree, really hard unless it's by fishermen, because you've got such low visibility. You are not going to be able to go out there in a glass bottom boat and start looking for and counting fish. You're not going to see anything. You've got visibility of 18 inches, maybe a foot.
yeah,
You're not going to see a thing for a fish count.
We also have, Steve Ellis lives on the creek, and I do ask him repeatedly in the springtime to tell me if he sees any herring coming up the
Okay.
stream. And he has not. He did not see it.
okay.
That's not to say that a herring might not, venture up, turn around and venture out. I mean,
When we were doing the clean out of the creek in 2007, we actually did see 2 herring. They were going the other direction.
yeah,
It was spring, they should have been coming in, but they're going out, but okay.
but we do know that the salinity is too high for successful spawning in that
Yeah.
pond at the time. So
Because I guess what I'm wondering on the far end of my question is, does it matter right now if fish have attempted to get there because they're not going to survive and or spawn if they do get there because the conditions aren't right? And would it be better to just put up the higher boards, no notch, and get the water quality cleaned up first and then gradually restore the herring accessibility?
well, the issue of herring and the board management is between the Division of Marine Fisheries and the town. They're working very closely with the town mast, and they make the final. They have a management requirement for those boards. They set that requirement.
Oh,
Yes, so, and believe me, SMAST and the town have been working with Brad Chase on this every year. Any changes to the board management strategy has to be approved by the Division of Marine Fisheries. So they will, and they look at it and reevaluate it frequently. So, and those discussions will continue.
okay.
I think Carol's point is well taken. I think we should be
Yeah.
proposing that to Brad Chase. Here's another potential option. Since we haven't seen anybody in years, how about we clean up the pond, improve the water quality, and then consider reinstituting the board heights once we have a overall better water quality level.
Yeah, and I think, again, those are, who am I?
It's Steve. Steve doesn't know this.
Huh?
His-
Who-
he muted. You're fine.
Oh.
Hornemeyer had an open mic and he was speaking.
Oh, okay. He's still here? I didn't know he was still
He's
there.
here, but now he's muted.
Yeah, and I do see I was just looking at the executive summary again, and it said it's recommended that the town work with Mass DMF to see if further flexibility in board heights can be implemented to keep salinity levels at lower concentrations. So they're already
Okay,
working on that.
But that's different than what Carol was proposing, which is let's just keep them
Well,
at the
I-
higher level period for a number of years. So I'd
I
love
don't-
to just
So-
have him
But the
Brad
other
talk about it.
that I think we need to understand is simply
Yeah.
having this pond become fresher, become more brackish, less marine.
Yeah,
It's not going to clean it up. What that will do, because the end game, if you will, of this management plan is to use alum to be able to improve the water quality of the pond. So just by virtue of having it go from salty to fresh is not going to improve water quality in this pond. So that speaks to the group that protested this plan to start with, where their feeling is, especially with rising waters, you have a lot of water coming in from Cape Cod Bay that has the potential to help cleanse this pond. And when you take all of the obstructions out and there is greater flow, that's going to contribute more to the improvement in water quality of the pond than is blocking it up. And we don't need to get into that whole argument. 'Cause
Well,
that certainly has gone on for years.
but you just opened that can of worms, Judith, and I disagree with you on many of the points you just made. So
Okay.
maybe we have, I mean, you will never get enough flushing in that pond to clean it up with opening it up, as you say. So maybe we need to have, Ed and Brian come talk to the committee again and go over some of these questions and see if anything has changed today with regard to management strategies. But I don't agree with some of the points you just made. And there have been some improvements already as salinity is going down, and that is a water quality improvement. Oxygen has improved. That's a water quality improvement. So maybe this does need some additional
We
discussion.
can hear that.
But-
I did not see that from the graphing, but we will.
Right, but
certainly-
maybe we need to ask them if they're able, if there's funding available for them to come and talk about this again. And because again, we have new members on the committee too,
Yep.
who have been involved with this as long as some of us have been. And so I will make a note of that and see what we might be able to do there.
And
Can I
again,
ask-
there should be nutrient reductions because in addition to getting rid of the cormorants and improving the water quality, understand that back with the original plan for sewering the downtown, it did not include most of the watershed to Cedar Pond. So
Right.
there was a hope that by naturally attenuating, by making it fresher and naturally attenuating,
Mhm.
it could help Rock Harbor. The plan now for downtown and what's already underway, pipes in the ground, is that the entire watershed to Cedar Pond from the downtown is going to be and is sewered. So that will be a significant nutrient reduction from both nitrogen and phosphorus, as well as all of the properties around Cedar Pond. There will be no more septic intrusion into
Right.
Cedar Pond.
And
So-
we will need to do some sediments in Cedar Pond. I
To be
agree with
huge.
you. Yeah, there are,
And again, regardless of fresh or salt.
Betsy had her hand up first and then Ed.
just a quick historical question. Before that road was there an impediment into Cedar Pond? Was there always,
Which road?
Yeah, what,
all I'm
Oh,
saying is here's Cedar Pond and here's the creek. Did the creek used to be able to just come into Cedar Pond?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
there's always been the hydro connection. What happened is they filled in a portion of Cedar Pond to put in Route 6.
So
That's one
what
problem.
created the blockage.
That's
Yeah.
where it all started. Yes. When-
Okay, all right. I just wanted to be clear on the history. Thank you, Ed.
Ed, you had your hand up.
Oh, yeah, instead of putting Cedar Pond on the end of the Crystal Lake thing with Ed
Yeah.
Eichner, maybe we should have a separate one.
I'm
with him.
sensing that, but I also,
Yeah.
since I don't know if that particular contract has another, presentation, or I need to check with George Meservy on
Yeah.
that. I just invite them without,
But also, since the Department of Marine Fisheries from the state
Mhm.
is involved in all this, couldn't we have,
Mhm.
someone like Brad
Yes.
come and be part of that meeting?
Yes, I can certainly try. Brad is really hard to, he's very busy, but probably the middle of winter is the least difficult time to get him. When it comes to the springtime, forget it, because
Yeah.
he's in charge of all anadromous fish runs in the state of Massachusetts. So he's very busy in the spring. But yes, I'm sure we could.
We're busy too. We would
Well, yeah,
we would
but
like to get his input on all this. I mean, it seems to me there's a lot of controversy here.
right.
I think
Well,
the
I need-
timing is right, because I think having Brad, Ed, you and Judith all in the same room and doing a tour first would be
With
really
gloves or
helpful.
without?
It would be really helpful for the rest of us who don't have the long historical perspective that you guys have.
Right.
Sure.
I will certainly try to set something up for the winter months to discuss that, as long as I get the proper approvals from George and
We can do a hike anytime, and I will just say that it's usually more pleasant to hike in November than January.
Like, I agree with Ed. I think Judy should be setting it up as a committee function.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't disagree, but I'm saying I don't think a hike down Rock Harbor Creek has to wait for January, February. We
No,
can-
no, my point is we should get that done.
Right.
Get it
I'll
out of
try-
the way.
I'll try to set a field trip up for us. I will watch the weather, come out with a few dates and see if it works for everybody.
Thank
And you
you.
have to assign cookies to someone. Someone has to bring a treat.
Cookies,
Hot
Oh.
chocolate.
chocolate. Okay, and a thermos of warm hot cocoa. All right. Are there any other comments? And again, if you have some questions for Ed and Brian, please send them and I will see that they get to them.
And
then we-
as Judith stated, so they have one more year of this monitoring
Yes.
Under the current management plan,
contract.
I
Okay.
believe there was 3 years of monitoring were required. Yeah. That was part of the MIPA, the state.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
DEP's order conditions.
They had a whole separate order of conditions, so we are, the town is adhering to that, so that's great. All right, thank you. It's a lively discussion as always when it comes to Cedar Pond. Are there any other public comments out there? And I have to rely on Sarah for the hands because I don't see any of that.
Yeah, there's no other public comment.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. And again, we have items for future agendas, which keep getting longer and longer. I really wanted to focus on Crystal Lake today. And then if time permitted, Cedar Pond. So that's why I bumped a few things to another meeting. But it doesn't mean I've forgotten about them. And that's why I leave them at the bottom of the agenda. So I didn't forget about that. But are there any new items that you want to add to this growing list? Silence.
Well,
Field trip.
the only other thing I wanted to do, I don't know if, oh, sorry, Ed.
No, go ahead.
If Sarah is still on, I don't know if she can answer any questions.
Oh, no, she's there. She's there until we're gone.
I'm here.
I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but I asked it before. So now that I'm the clerk, I
Uh-huh.
was trying to figure out ways of, that we could share documents. So I was just thinking, to make Judith's job easier, if we had a place where each of the members could go and add to their questions to Ed and Brian, I think it was, and things of that nature, we could actually have a place where we could go, like on Google Docs, and you put the file up there, and then all of us have permission to use it. Again, I did go to that orientation meeting, so I took some notes, but I know you have to be transparent and all this other stuff. But
Right,
if
and-
we could actually have that document available, no, we can't.
No, I think that would
Yeah, no.
constitute, it would sort of smack of having discussion or collaboration outside the open.
Right.
So, So then my next question was, I thought that there was the lawyer, the counsel mentioned that there were ways of doing that, but maybe I'm mistaken. So would you, Sarah, who would you recommend that I talk to about that? Do I need to talk to the council myself or do I talk to someone else?
Well, Walter seems to have a answer.
Oh, Walter, okay.
I think if you're talking about providing feedback on a report that's been prepared by an independent consultant and you have like a Dropbox, that is acceptable. It's when you engage in dialogue with other members of the committee about it, that it becomes non-acceptable. So there's just putting questions into an open document that you can all look at, but you can't comment on. And I think that's acceptable.
Yeah, because
Okay,
like
say that one more time.
the FinCom uses a Dropbox to distribute their materials, but nobody comments on it. It's just a one way for them to grab the materials.
Right, right. So in other words, so if we, this is not the right way to do it, but so basically we're doing these things. We're sending comments via email to Judy. She's taking them and putting them into a file. But you're saying you can't.
Well, Rich, what I'm going to do is compile all your comments and then put them out to all of you.
Okay.
And we will discuss them at a future meeting, and they become also available to the public too.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know whether compilation as itself in a different format rather than you having to put them together. It sounds like if it has to be sent in separately, it's documented that way, rather than having a single document edited for you, each of us edit it, and then you take it and you distribute it.
Yeah, I think that would be violating open meeting laws
Okay.
because everybody would
Okay.
have access to edit it.
Right.
Yeah,
Because I mean,
exactly.
when I get comments or questions from you, I'm not touching them. I don't change them. So
No,
I just want to
correct.
have them in one place so that they all
Yeah,
go
no,
together. Yeah.
right. Yeah, it just seemed like the process isn't that different than what's actually happening. It's just automated. So anyway.
I will
Okay.
look to see if there's a easier, more streamlined way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
'Cause I
thank
know
you.
when we were on when we were on that educational select board meeting, there were people on there who actually had been on boards of other towns and cities. And there was one gentleman I know, I remember, and I may have the notes on it, who talked about how they were doing it. And I thought they had ways of doing that the council said was okay. But I get the dialogue part. In other words, if you're just sending stuff in and you're not discussing it, it's one thing to me. But if you're sending stuff in or talking about it and having a dialogue, it needs to be open here. So I thought maybe there was a difference between the two. But it sounds like from what Sarah's saying, there probably isn't. So
Judy, may I interject?
Of course you may. I can't see your hand, so please do.
Walter.
Sarah was not kind enough to leave me on, or brave enough to leave me unmuted.
No, not brave. It's fine.
So there is a line between deliberation and information. And I think, so for example, I'm on the charter committee and we're going to have a public Dropbox basically for comment from the public. And we could also comment to it, but that's not a deliberation and it's publicly accessible and viewable, but there's no dialogue. So if you had a document that you wanted public comment on, for example, you could post a Dropbox, which people could provide comment to, but it cannot allow for a dialogue feature.
Right.
You can't respond to the comments, can't start
Right.
a discussion. That's the distinction.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think what I was saying is if you're just, I don't want to use the word dropping, but if you're just taking a file and you're adding to it, but there's no dialogue between it, that it sounds like the Dropbox or the location needs to be have public access so that if someone wants to see what's there, they could.
Correct.
Something like that.
Right, but right now I just want to collect comments, from the committee and
Yep.
submit for our next meeting for the scientists to be able to see the questions and comments and be prepared to discuss them when they come back.
Yeah, right. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. just thinking about the whole collaborative thing and making it simpler.
know.
But not in that sense, not in the
Oh, no,
dialogue
it's to
sense,
make
just
it
a
easier.
collective.
We don't want to do that, Rich.
No. I wasn't proposing that.
No, was making a joke, sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
And I thank you, Walter, for
First-
your input.
Thank you. That was helpful. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
So are there any other topics that you want placed on the, in the future for consideration? All right. What time do we have right now?
20 and
10
12.
11:40. I think that's similar to last month, so I don't want to go on and on. If anybody has any other comments or doesn't, I guess we're all set then. And I thank everybody for participating, and I thank the audience members for participating. And I need a motion then to adjourn, and I hope everyone has a lovely week.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
I have a second. I, Judy Scanlon.
Hi, Judith Bruce.
I, Carol,
Rich.
oops, sorry.
Hi, Rich Levy. Sorry, Karen.
Hi, Betsy Fertney.
I, Ed Hafner.
And I thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Stay healthy.